Hey, look, these ain't your grandma's or Bo Ryan's Wisconsin Badgers. Greg Gard is letting the boys run, and they could drop 100 on you before you know what hits you.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Happy Tuesday. Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, the only daily national college hoop show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shade. You're joining me at the place to get your college basketball content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I want to thank you so much for making us your first listener watch to get your Tuesday going the right way. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. I want to give a special shout out to all the everydayers here with us and all you great members of the Locked On College Basketball Discord. We're hanging out, chatting college hoops all day, every day. That link's in the show notes. We'd love to see you in there. Joining me on the show today is my good friend, Mr. Ryan Harings, the great host of Locked On Badgers, because we are doing our Wisconsin team preview today. By the way, if you'd like to check out a playlist of all our team previews, I'm going to link it in the top corner up there on the YouTube machine, unless Amazon tries to wreck it like they did everything else on Monday. Woof, that affected all our lives in a crazy way. And I didn't know that Amazon was hosting all these websites that they're hosting, but boy, do I now, Ryan, and are we so dependent on Amazon? It's crazy.
Yes, that was a large impact, and unfortunate for my children as well, who were trying to play video games. And from us at the top to the children getting on the PS5, it hit everybody. Luckily, I think we're over it at this point.
My wife, I did not know this, and this is a quick aside, and then we'll get going. Apparently, Amazon makes more from their website hosting every day or every month than they do from their e-commerce. Like, that blew my mind. I didn't know.
Yes, they're in everything though, right? They branched out, and again, not to turn this into a business podcast, but they have done things pretty intelligently to build the amount of money that they have under their coffers. So, if they ever are interested in some NIL to Wisconsin Badger football, they would certainly be welcome at this point in time.
Come on, Jeff Bezos, we need you. Okay, here's where Ryan and I are headed today, talking the Badgers. We'll look at this new tempo. Warp Speed Badgers happened last year. We'll look into that. We had the red and white scrimmage on Sunday, so I'm going to get some takeaways from Ryan on that. We'll look at the personnel. John Tonje out, but now is it John Blackwell's turn? Who else is coming around him? We'll look at the schedule. Big Ten is always crazy. I was reminded of that as I looked at this schedule, and a nice little 5-game run in non-con play as well. So, Ryan, let me quickly remind everyone of what the Badgers did last year, and then I want to ask you about this new tempo situation. Badgers finished 27-10 overall, 13-7 in Big Ten play, finished tied for 4th in the Big Ten with 2 other teams, and then got the 5 seed in that, beat Northwestern, UCLA, and Michigan State on the way to the Big Ten championship on Sunday leading into the selection show, but fell to the Wolverines in that championship. Got a 3 seed, lost in the second round to BYU, and John Tonje led the way there at 19.6 points per game. What a glow up for John Tonje, man. That was one of my favorite stories of all of last season. And then John Blackwell just a little bit behind him at 15.8 points a game. Badgers preseason team number 24 in your AP poll, ranked too low in my humble opinion. But Ryan, here's where we got to start. Basically, the entirety of of the 2020s, or of the 2000s, I guess I should say, Wisconsin has been in the 300s in adjusted tempo at Ken Palm. I'll give some more specifics here in a second. But then suddenly last year, Greg Gard takes the governor off, and this thing is going at warp speed. The Badgers finished last year 149th nationally, which might not seem like much to, a lot of people, but in Greg Gard's previous 9 seasons, this team had averaged being 320th at Ken Palm in adjusted tempo. What on earth is going on in Madison?
Yeah, it's exciting times. Just like you mentioned, the Badgers we always knew, right? Shooting teams out of the gym and playing leaky defense, firing their way to 90-point wins. It's really interesting because and I almost want to ask you this too, if you can think of another parallel to this. Greg Gard has been there for about a decade, previously under Bo Ryan for a long time. His ways were very entrenched. It's very unusual for a coach who's been in a place for a long time, has had success, and then flipped the way he did something. It's a lot of credit to him. It's a lot of credit to what Greg Gard did. The kind of fulcrum upon which this shifted was Kirk Penny. former Wisconsin Badger, New Zealander, has played overseas. He's a shooter. He came in and he said, I think we can optimize this. I think we can take some of what makes Wisconsin special, but let's space the floor. Let's shoot. Let's get earlier shots. Let's still hunt those trademarks of Wisconsin efficiency. Let's still hunt efficiency, but let's hunt it earlier and quicker. Let's put the defense in a blender a little bit. And it's here to stay. In fact, what you saw last year is a precursor to what you're going to see this year. You're going to see more threes. You're going to see more tempo. You're going to see a faster brand of Wisconsin Badgers basketball. This offense is going to be electric. And I give a ton of that credit to Greg Gard, who in the middle of his coaching tenure, a long, successful tenure.
That's right.
We're going to do something different. Not many coaches can do that.
Ryan, I love what you said there, because I feel like usually when a coach makes a change stylistically or schematically of this magnitude, it's because the wheels are falling off. And it's like, we got to do something. So Grinnell College D3 school is going to go out and chuck 8 million threes a game and score 5,000 points a game. For Greg Gard, as you said, it's like, we're taking an already successful program that was in the national championship game about a decade ago and like light it on fire and just speed up. And it's crazy because, to your point, it's not like, we had it very similar to Virginia, for people that might, know that thing with Tony Bennett and the blocker mover and all that. It is slow and plodding, but it's intentional. And these are teams that are highly efficient offensively. But Ryan, what blew my mind, I didn't remember or realize this until I went back and looked at the Greg Gard tenure. Last year, when they sped up the Badgers, it was actually at KenPom the most offensively efficient team in terms of where they ranked nationally of the Greg Gard era. Man, as you said, all the kudos in the world goes to this man for his, what I would call, humility to say, all right, let's try something else and see if it can take off. So you said you expect Ryan to see it even more this year. Why is that?
So they've really leaned in, right? So Kirk Pinney came in, I think, is proof of concept. This can work. Wow, this can really work. Let's lean in. And you mentioned it's the efficiency, right? Because it's still Wisconsin hunting free throws. Under Bo Ryan, one of his staples was we would make more free throws than opposing teams would shoot. John Tonje, Blackwell, those are free throw merchants. So they're still getting efficient shots, but they're doing it quicker and faster. And what they did this offseason, and I know we're going to get into it, is geared towards this offense. It's shooting, passing, speed, tempo. It's all geared offensively, and every spot on this team. And I talked to Greg Gard actually at Media Days, and I asked him specifically, is this maybe the best shooting team you've had? And he Greg Gard is very much let's see. But I can tell you from talking to someone else on staff, they're like, I think our top 7-8 guys are all shooters. Like, this team is going to shoot space and create a lot of havoc with decision makers. It's going to be a fantastic, I think, in my opinion, offensive year. Now, there's other questions, which I'm sure we'll get to, but offensively, this team is going to cook.
So for anyone that thought last year was a one-off, be ye mistaken, because it's not. It's, at least for right now, here to stay. Ryan, two of my favorite, I was just thinking back through last year, two of my favorite indicators of this crazy new up-tempo were, one of them was early, November 15th, Wisconsin hung 103 on Arizona, the first time getting 100+ against a power conference opponent in over 3 decades. And then January 3rd set a Big Ten record with 21 made threes against Iowa. Crazy, like 21 of 31. That's 67%. I mean, just absolutely absurd. It was the most points scored in any Big Ten game in 3 decades. I mean, Ryan, that's Wisconsin we're talking about. I can't wrap my head around it.
Yeah, that first Arizona game, too, that was really the Tonje breakout game where they couldn't guard him. They couldn't keep him out of the paint. It was the first time we really said, that's something special here. And again, let's give credit back to Greg Gard. Tonje was an under-recruited, unheralded transfer portal guy. And he became a borderline, a second-team All-American in Madison. You think back to what Greg Gard did for A.J. Storr, who came to Wisconsin from St. John's, blew up, and then went to Kansas and fell off. You think what he did for Johnny Davis in 2 years, turned him into a lottery pick, and now he can't find a landing spot. Like, there's a track record here. Come to Wisconsin. If you're an athletic wing, you can shoot the ball. Greg Gard's going to develop you. And this is going to help lead to more talent. That's how this stuff works. So you're not wrong. That Arizona game was the early precursor of what this offense would be. And it was John Tonje's kind of breakout performance.
Sam Decker's out here like, man, why can't I play for these Badgers, man? I'd love to light it. Okay, so Ryan, Sunday, 2 days ago, was the red and white scrimmage. I'd love to just ask you, because one of my favorite things is overreactions to exhibition season. So right? Like it's so fun. So I would love for you to give us your like 3 biggest takeaways from this intra-squad scrimmage.
I love optimism season. I love overreaction season. So yes, let's go. So Nick Boyd, who we're going to talk about, San Diego State point guard coming in, veteran guy, has played a ton of ball, 21 points in 23 minutes in the red and white scrimmage. And when I alluded to tempo, speed, athleticism, he's going to be one of the fastest guards Wisconsin has had in a while. He's going to push tempo. And you and I both know some of the best shots you're going to get are early threes off tempo. It's that trail three off the secondary break. It's the corner three when the defense collapses to the paint to stop the rim runner. Boyd's going to unlock that. I think a big season for him. Number 2, we talked about it, 44 threes attempted in the red and white scrimmage. They're going to let it fly for better or worse. I'll pause there. 44 threes attempted in the red and white scrimmage.
What was the was it a couple 15-minute halves or what was the makeup of the game? Like how much game time was that 44 attempts?
Normal. So it's a normal kind of normal game time. And the percentages weren't great, but I think one thing that has been unlocked a little bit, and this is a little bit more of a modern idea on basketball, is good shots are good shots, right? You hunt efficient shots, and if they don't go in, they don't go in, but you're going to win with process over results. Yep, exactly. And that was a process that you can see on display. Again, this team is going to hunt shots, they're going to find shots, and they're going to shoot shots. Now, the other one I'll give you, the other overreaction, Hayden Jones, 6'6" freshman, coming out of New Zealand. That was part of that
Kiwi. He's a Kiwi.
A Kiwi. He's 6'6". He can shoot. And he's an overseas guy that's played in FIBA U19. He's got experience against bigger guys. He's come in and he's kind of moved up that pecking order. I would expect to see the 6'6" New Zealander hit the court this year for the Badgers.
Kind of, where do you expect it to play out on the 3 or down at the 4? Where do you see him getting his minutes?
I think he's going to be a spacer. Like he's going to be almost. They have 2 New Zealanders coming in this year. Hayden Jones is the guy. Next year they have a guy coming in as well. Both are kind of jumbo-sized combo guards, almost like a jumbo point guard that can shoot the ball a little bit, but give you some length and physicality defensively. I just think they're looking for multifaceted players at this point. Positionless a little bit, spread the floor, multiple guys that can pass and shoot. Listen, gone are the days of the swing. It's still in Greg. I guarantee you Greg Gard could roll out of bed tomorrow and teach that to a 4th grade class. He probably would love to do that, but it is space, it is shooting, and it is athletes that can play across several spots in Madison right now. And it's exciting for Badger fans.
And to that point, you were talking about Nick Boyd and everything he's bringing. I'm so excited and interested to see how this backcourt of he and Blackwell unlock each other and help each other. I just think the give and take there, assuming that they have coalesced together well, could be a real lot of fun and could be one of the more dynamic backcourts in the entire Big Ten. Excited to see that. Speaking of which, Ryan Harings, several key Badgers are back, but that guard we're just talking about, he brings Final Four experience to the table. He's coming to help. And also, Ryan and I make our predictions for the starting 5 for the Badgers and maybe a little breakout candidate. Love to hear a little bit of that from Ryan. All coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Monarch. Look, let's be honest. Most of us can't even name all our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth. Between 401ks, savings, investments, it's easy to lose track. And y'all, that can mean you're leaving money on the table. That's why you got to start using Monarch. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or phone, whatever device you want to use. Monarch helps you organize your accounts, track your spending, get a better handle on all your investments without having to touch a spreadsheet. And I say that as someone who loves a good spreadsheet. I love also that I can review everything with my wife. We see our shared goals. We make better financial decisions together. And I can imagine Ryan's a family man with his wife. I've got my wife. We've got 2 kids. We want to make sure that we're locked in together with all of these financial decisions, right? So that we're keeping it on the same page. Monarch helps do that. They've got visual dashboards and smart tools to make it so much easier to understand where our money's going and how to make it work harder for us. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's a crazy deal. Monarch.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. Look, The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you're not going to want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you're going to unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. When you use FanDuel, whether it's parlays, player props, even getting in on the action live, it makes watching football all the more exciting. If you covered teams like the Badgers or the Tar Heels who are not exactly playing great on the gridiron this year, you need something to root for, right? So whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. I live in Missouri, where right now we're waiting on FanDuel to be here December 1st. But I just got kicked out. I used to be able to see all the conference odds. And so, man, maybe you want to go check out the Big Ten regular season odds and see where Wisconsin's at. Maybe you believe in these Badgers in a big way. Go ahead, get in on that action, Ryan. Does that make some sense to you?
I love it. And, the thing with FanDuel, too, is you mentioned the football. Even if your team is struggling a little bit, the live in-game betting allows you to stay in the action and continue to have a little bit of fun if your season isn't quite going the way you expected.
Which, again, is the plight for both of us with the individual teams we cover. So what are you guys waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the app today. Go ahead and get started. Ryan, as is the case for so many people in the transfer portal era, the Badgers have 9 new faces on this roster between transfers and international players and freshmen, and 5 of the top 7 scorers are gone last year, including John Tonje, who we talked about, but second leading scorer, John Blackwell, he's back. What is going to make him so good this year, and who else is back around him?
Yeah, Blackwell's a really interesting one. So last year, the Badgers, again, despite the offensive efficiency marks we talked about, they didn't have a true point guard, not a true point guard, set the table. So Blackwell, who is really more of a combo guard, he shifted over and he took a lot of those responsibilities. This is where Nick Boyd coming in. It isn't just Nick Boyd. It's Nick Boyd unlocking Blackwell. Blackwell is going to take up the John Tonje mantle. Get the rock, go score the rock. He went this offseason, went into the NBA draft combine, tested the waters, got feedback. I think he's really locked in. He is ready for a dominant season this year. In the red and white scrimmage, scored, but also had 7 rebounds, 4 assists. He's kind of a two-way guy, dynamic, athletic, gets to the rim, gets to the paint, big-time talent. But I think he really benefits from Blackwell, or from Nick Boyd coming in, because it's going to free up the playmaking duties and allow him just to be the scorer. So I think you start there, a big season for Blackwell coming up.
And let's just stick with Boyd for a second. I know we're talking returners, but I mean, Ryan, this is a guy that, there were so many heralded players that were in that starting 5 for FAU in the Final Four several years ago. But the rest of Elijah Martin, national champion last year, he's gone, right? Vlad Golden was up in Michigan. He's got all of these dudes are out of college basketball, except Nick Boyd, the lone remaining starter from that FAU squad. How helpful do you think that Final Four experience is going to be for not only him individually, but for the Badgers as a team?
Tremendously vital, right? And I'm not trying to be hyperbolic, but you're talking about the point guard. It's like, it would be like saying, how valuable is that AFC championship experience can be for the returning quarterback? Like quarterbacks, point guards, catchers, a little bit in baseball, like that playoff experience, that postseason experience, that big moment experience. It's incredibly vital. And, going to a couple of media practices, seeing Nick Boyd, man, he is getting after it. And all those intangible things you want from a point guard, he is yapping at John Blackwell. He is make or miss, getting the ball out of the rim and initiating speed. He's controlling the game. He's a tremendous pick and roll player. I mean, if you go back and look at some of his San Diego State film, that's really where he excels. But now he's going to be in a spot that has more spacing around him, where they're just going to put shooters around him, expand the floor. And defenses are like rubber bands. Eventually you stretch them too much and they break. And he's going to be in the middle of that, operating in a pick and roll where he's really good without help side anywhere, because you can't leave shooters on this team anymore. So I had I'll end on this. I had a coach on the staff kind of unofficially tell me he is an expletive that we can't say. He is, they are so excited for him. I think he's everything they thought they would get and more in Nick Boyd.
Man, that's so good. Now, here's the thing, Ryan. We've been talking about a lot about John Blackwell. Started all 37 games last year, as did John Tonje, as did Stephen Crowell. But there is another player who started all 37 games as well last year. And in this day and age, to get 2 starters back is massive. How important is it for the Badgers to be able to have Nolan Winter back on this team as well?
Man, he's so good. So if you go look at Synergy, which Synergy is kind of a video platform, but it'll track every single possession by every player across college basketball. Think PFF, but much more robust in its grading for college basketball. Nolan Winter's in the 98th percentile of offensive possessions, 99th percentile in post play, 99th percentile in transition play, and points per possession. He's a bit of a unicorn on this team. 6'11", can shoot the ball, athletic, can really glide to the rim. He's going to be a big part of this too. Again, we talk about the ability to shoot at all spots. He's going to be a 5 for this team, filling in for Steven Crowell, who is a really good piece for the Badgers.
Right.
And they do lose a little bit of the physicality inside. That is a spot where I think they can get exploited a little bit this year on the defensive glass, post defense. But Crowell's going to take opposing 5s and just bring them out to the 3-point line. And they're going to have a really tough time dealing with his efficiency. We have to see it with a bigger jump in minutes now. Right? He's got to do what he did last year and then do it over the course of 32 minutes. But he's up to 240 this offseason. He said they were just putting food into me and I was just lifting weights, essentially is what he said at media day. I'm paraphrasing, but he said, my goal is to get bigger in an intelligent way. He is a 6'11", 240-pound athletic mobile big that can shoot threes. And the Badgers wouldn't be able to afford a guy like that, quite frankly, in the portal if he wasn't in-house.
That's a great point.
I think he's a star. I think there's a pretty good chance he's the highest draft pick on this team coming forward. I think he probably has more upside than a John Blackwell just because the NBA is going to look at him and say, 6'11", can move and shoot. Yeah, we're going to take that.
Sign me up. Right, exactly. All right, obviously we're talking Nick Boyd. He, is the name that everyone's going to know for Wisconsin in this transfer portal class. But there's also Andrew Rohde coming over from Virginia, Austin Rapp from Portland, Braden Carrington from Tulsa, and Elijah Gray from Temple. As you look at the rest of that quintet, aside from Nick Boyd, who we've already talked about, who really kind of stands out to you, or who's going to get major minutes out of those other 4?
Yeah, it's a really good question. We'll kind of roll through them relatively quickly. Andrew Rohde coming over from Virginia is going to be your starting 3. That's a really nice glue piece they're going to get. 6'6", 6'7", good length. He's been in that Virginia defensive system. I think that's your stopper on the wing. Not hyper athletic, but a guy that understands defense. You have to if you're – obviously Virginia's evolved a little bit, but he was there for several years. So he's going to give them that defensive front. He shoots a little bit. He's an incredible passer. He's probably the best passer, Nick Boyd included, on the team. As a small forward, he's really unique in that sense. I think they're going to run a lot of action where he's going to get the ball on the second side with 12, 13 seconds left on the shot clock and go right into another pick and roll. And I really think they're going to put teams in a blender with that type of action. Austin Rapp coming in at the 4. He's interesting. Played at Portland last year, young player, really shoots. Like fitting the theme we talked about, let it rip. He shoots a lot. We've already seen it in some of the media practices. We've done it in the red-white scrimmage. Legit NBA range. Athleticism is going to get tested at the Big Ten level. But just as a floor spacing 4, he's going to fill that role for the Badgers. He's going to have to prove he can rebound. He's going to have to prove he can play physically against the Big Ten front courts we're going to see, which I think is a massive question for this team defensively. Offensively, it's a perfect fit. And then you talk to Braden Carrington coming over from Tulsa, also played at Minnesota. He's probably your 6th or 7th guy. But what he gives you is a guy who, again, can shoot the ball. See the theme? But he gives you experience, toughness, and size defensively. And I think he can come off the bench and you can slide him in at the 1, the 2, the 3. Oh. Let's say he comes in for Nick Boyd. Now Blackwell can slide over to the 1, and then Carrington can be your 2 or 3. Rohde can play some 1 because of his playmaking. Yes, again, it just goes back to that positionless shooting team that Greg Gard has constructed. And I think all these pieces fit pretty well. I think every one of those players is going to fit a relatively major role for the Badgers this year.
You've already mentioned Hayden Jones. I want to ask you about the other international player coming over from Lithuania, Alexis Bieliauskas. And Ryan, is he more of a project or somebody that you expect to get legit minutes this year?
Yeah, so I think it's Bieliauskas, but that's an impossible.
I apologize. Excuse me.
Oh, that's an impossible one to nail on the first try. Like, I actually went and watched Lithuanian film just to find the pronunciation.
I do this all the time. Yes.
So the Badgers, as I talked about, if you look for concerns on this team, it is in the front court. It is in the front court, specifically defensively and on the glass, where you're replacing a Steven Crowell, who was a 3-year starter down there and was just big, physical, typical Big Ten, kind of that type of center. So Bieliauskas will get an opportunity to fit into that front court rotation. The staff is actually pretty high on him. I think they've grown to be a little higher on him. Just talking to some people in the building. He's 6'10", again, an overseas guy who has played against international competition, bigger people, stronger people, played in Lithuania. I think he's probably ahead of an Elijah Gray, who I know you mentioned earlier, as if you need to bring in a backup 4 because Rapp gets in foul trouble, or a backup 5 and goes small. I think Bielya-Luskis is probably your guy there. Yeah, even I still trip on it. But I do think they expect him to be in that rotation this year.
Okay. Yeah. And then there's 2 other freshmen coming in, Zach Kinzinger and Will Garlock. Both of these guys at 247, outside the top 100. Again, same kind of question, Ryan. Do you expect them to get much burn this year, or is it kind of development guys to be ready for the next year or 2?
This is where you always have to caution yourself. You and I talked about optimism season, and like every player is going to play. And then you look down at your notes, and you're like, well, geez, they're not going 12 deep. Let's pump the brakes here. I know this is new Greg Gard, but they're not playing 12 players. Will Garlock has really turned eyes. Let's start there. So I saw him a couple times in high school. I went to watch him, and honestly, it was a little underwhelming for a guy with his size, his athletic tools. And then he got to camp, and people were just like, wow, he's bigger, he's stronger. So this is a 7-foot, 240-pound guy that moves really well. One thing, you talking to Nolan Winter, and he said, yeah, 7 foot jumps out of the gym, makes the basketball look like a Nerf ball in his hands. I actually think he's going to play this year because, and I think it'll be one of those roles where 3 games in a row, you may not see Will Garlock. And then you play Purdue, and my goodness, we need him for 20 minutes because it's Purdue. I think it's going to be. But don't let him play too well because you don't want Matt Painter stealing him next season. I know. Maybe we'll tone it down. Maybe we'll use more for Michigan State than Illinois. But athletically, his upside is tremendous. He can move. He has a wingspan. He's 7 foot. He can jump. It's just, how do all the other accompanying pieces come together? But I do think you'll see him this year. Kinzinger is probably a tougher one. Again, I got a guy I saw in high school, really good shooter, really, really elite shooter. I just don't know where he fits into the rotation year one. He's a coach kid. He comes from a hoops family. His older brothers play. So those players always have that kind of intangible quality to them. I went and watched him play in high school, and he's running back in transition and yelling at people, like all those things that you're like, yes, I love this kid already, right? Take a charge and yell at somebody to switch the screen. Let's go.
Gosh, that's so fun. Yeah, man, I'm all in on that.
But I think it might be I just don't know where he fits into the rotation this year.
Hey, Ryan, I don't know if many people are aware of this. There's only 200 minutes that you can give in a basketball game, right? Like, that's how math works. So, yeah, at some point, you just run out of real estate, and it just is what it is. Hopefully, he's in to stay and develop, right? Like, that's what we're always trying to figure out in this portal era age. Quickly, Ryan, because I know we got to keep moving. From the way we've been talking, it feels like there's a pretty set starting 5, but I just want to make sure that we're not missing something here. It feels like it's obvious that it's Nick Boyd and John Blackwell at the 1 and the 2, and in some form, they could basically run interchangeably there. Rhodey at the 3, Austin Rapp at the 4, and Nolan Winter at the 5. Am I missing something there? Is there anyone else we need to even consider?
Nope, nailed it. That's been locked in for a while. When those guys came into the portal, yep, this is the starting 5. So, Yep, you nailed it.
And we'll obviously watch, things can change. It's all about who gets starters minutes, what's the closing 5, and all of that stuff. So we'll keep our eyes on that, obviously, as well. But that's not as sexy in the preseason as starting 5 Ryan Harings. And so that's what we're talking about. All right, quickly, I need you to give me a breakout, and I need you to give me somebody that's like, is it John Blackwell? Like, who is this team's leading scorer and best player? Which I guess isn't always the same answer. Let me recognize that.
Oh, man, breakout's a great question. I'm going to say Nolan Winter for the breakout. I just think you look at a guy whose efficiency marks last year, again, put him in the 98th to 99th percentile offensively across all of Division I basketball, across every program,
so nuts.
Across multiple facets offensively. We're talking transition, post up, overall offensive game. He's going to go from about 20 minutes to about 30, right? He's going to get that minutes bump. I think you could see him explode. And I would just dovetail that into the next question. I think he's the most talented guy on the roster. Nolan Winter. I think there's just not a lot of 6'11" guys who move like him and shoot like him on this planet. It's a supply and demand thing.
God only made so many of them, and that's just how it is. Ryan, I'm 5'11". How tall are you?
6'1", 6 foot 6-ish.
I hate you so hard. I just want a 6. I just want a 6 in front of my okay. Anyway, fine. Now I'm mad, and this is frustrating. But the Badgers, as we start to look at the schedule and make some season predictions, there's a pretty tough 5-game stretch of the non-con schedule and 2 different doozies in Big Ten play. We're going to unpack those and make those season predictions, all coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Game Time, y'all, college football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there ain't nothing like it, but let's be real. Actually getting tickets to these games can sometimes feel like more of a battle than the game itself. There's endless lines, there's these hidden fees, the prices jump when you get to check out. It's absurd. And that's why you got to use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to you, the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. Honestly, it's faster, it's cheaper, and less stressful than any other way that I've tried to buy tickets. And I love that you can find views from your seat right there in the app. You know, Ryan, I was going to go look at ticket prices in Eugene for Wisconsin at Oregon on Saturday, but I decided to save the Badgers fans and bypass that one. And so I looked ahead to Wisconsin against BYU in the Delta Center coming up 1 month from today, November 21st. There's a get-in price of $87, man. I would definitely pay that to see this team against BYU and AJ DeBansa and Elijah Sonnet. Man, it's going to be so much fun. You guys, take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms apply. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. The Big Ten is the lone remaining power conference still playing 20. No, I checked that. The Big East is. They play a true round robin, but the Big Ten is still playing a 20 game. That means there's 11 games in the non-con schedule. Let me just highlight the power conference games, including this Friday's exhibition. You guys, if you have not checked out Friday's exhibition slate, you're going to faint with how good it is. Just trust me. Go look it up. Anyway, this Friday, playing Oklahoma in Fiserv, the home of the Bucks. They're in Milwaukee. That's actually going to be on Big Ten Plus if you want to check that out. But Ryan, here's the part of the non-con that is going to kind of determine how we're feeling about the Badgers heading into conference play. Friday, November 21st, against BYU. I just mentioned it in the Game Time read at the Delta Center in Salt Lake City, where the Jazz play. Then on over Thanksgiving and Black Friday, the Rady Children's Invitational out in San Diego. Thursday, it'll be Providence. And then Friday, either Florida or TCU. Please, college basketball gods, make it Florida. And then Saturday, December 6th, against Marquette. That game is actually bookended by the two early season Big Ten games. We'll get to those in a second. And then the last in this stretch of important non-con play is Friday. Come on, more college basketball on Friday nights. December 19th against Villanova back in Fiserv. So I love getting this exhibition game against Oklahoma there this Friday. Ryan, as you look in particular at that 5-game stretch, what do you feel like the Badgers need to do to feel like they've put themselves in good position ahead of Big Ten play?
Yeah, it could be a doozy there. That game against BYU. I mean, I almost want to just start there. I almost want to say you can go 1-4 if you beat BYU. And I think there's probably some people in the Badgers locker room that'd be like, yeah, I'm okay with that. If you can go to Salt Lake and beat BYU after that game last year where they knocked us. I mean, it was a great game. BYU was incredibly talented. There's a revenge factor there that Wisconsin is looking forward to. I think you want to get out of that 3-2. I mean, 4-1 would be incredible. BYU is going to be really tough, man, with the shooting and the young talent they have there. And it's not a road game, but it's kind of a road game. So I think if you get through that, man, and you're 3-2 and you look good, competitively, how you look in some of these games matters. If you get through that and you look good, a close loss to maybe it's Florida, a close loss to maybe BYU, I think you feel fine coming out of that. I think 3-2 is the goal there.
I think so. Like in an ideal world, I mean, obviously, ideal world, you go undefeated, but an ideal world is 4-1 with meaning hopefully a win over either BYU or, again, playing Florida in that second game of Rady's really helps just in terms of competition, in terms of net ratings, and all of those analytic metrics that we're always looking at. And so very much keeping my eyes on that. Interestingly and notably, Ryan, unless I'm missing it, that game at the Delta Center is the closest thing in the non-con schedule to a true road game for the Badgers. How do you feel about that in non-con, where it's like, hey, we're mostly playing in the Kohl Center or true neutral site games?
I guess I don't feel too much either way. I think you could want the true road game. The last couple of years they've gone the home and away to Arizona, so going down to Tucson, that was a great environment. Obviously, that place loves hoops, and it does do a few things to you to crank the screws a little tighter, right, to lock you in. But I sometimes think, man, that doesn't matter if you lose. Like sometimes people, I mean, strength of schedule, everything matters, but man, like, give me some games closer to home. Let's stay healthier. Let's stay fresher. The Big Ten's a meat grinder. I mean, you're going to end with Purdue, like among others, really tough matchups there. So I almost kind of think, man, with the way the Big Ten sets up, games closer to home, let's keep it a little fresher. I don't hate that at all.
Yeah, love it. So let's turn our attention then to Big Ten play, as the Big Ten traditionally does. There's a couple games in early December. As I said, these games are bookending the Marquette game, which is on Saturday, December 6th. That's a game on Wednesday, December 3rd at home against Northwestern. And then as the Big Ten usually does, that means the other one's going to be on the road the next Wednesday, December 10th at Nebraska. But Ryan, there's these two tough stretches in particular that I want to ask you about. Right out of the gate, we take those two games out of play. It's crazy because the Purdue games bookend the rest of the Big Ten schedule, which is kind of nuts, but I also love it as a neutral observer. But to begin the main chunk of Big Ten play, it's hosting Purdue, hosting UCLA. That's good. Make Cronin fly across the country. And then at Michigan, that's Saturday, January 3rd, January 6th, and January 10th. Ryan, that right there, because I'm really high on UCLA. I know I'm not as high on Michigan, but I know a lot of people are. That's probably 3 of the top 4 teams in this conference.
Well, as you mentioned, you start with Purdue. Now, Wisconsin has played Purdue about as well as anybody in the conference over the last several years, but that's a monster. Like, that's a tough game. I agree with you. UCLA, I think, is a tough matchup. Michigan is always going to be really well coached with what they have in place there. That there was a game last year, Wisconsin went up to Ann Arbor, and they were just I love Greg Gard. I spent a lot of this show talking about how much I like Greg Gard. I think he was thoroughly outcoached in that game. So Michigan is going to do some things, especially offensively, that can exploit what Wisconsin may lack in the interior defensively. It's a really tough matchup. Again, you start with Purdue. To me, those games are always, can you set the message to the team? Like, and what I mean by that is you can't get blown out to start your stretch of Big Ten play. You go in there, you compete, you play hard. And then if you lose to Purdue because it's 78-75 because Braden Smith hits a shot at the buzzer, it is what it is. But that's a great test to start off that stretch. And I can't wait for it. I cannot wait for this Big Ten slate to get started. Some of that is because of what football has done to me as a Badger fan. But some of it is because I just think this Big Ten is really strong, and I think the Badgers are equipped to handle it. And I just can't wait, man.
You know what just clicked with me is that Michigan game is going to be a reuniting of Nick Boyd with his coach at FAU, Dusty May. So that'll be a lot of fun as well. All right. The other stretch, Ryan, is this 5-game stretch right at the end of January through mid-February, which is bookended by 2 games with Ohio State. So hosting Ohio State January 31st, then at Indiana, at Illinois, hosting Michigan State, and then at Ohio State. So it's 5 tough games, in my opinion, but 3 of which are on the road in some tough environments, both assembly halls, as well as going up to Columbus. So, Ryan, I feel like that first slate right out of the gate we talked about, and this one through mid-February is probably going to tell the tale of Big Ten play for Wisconsin.
Yeah, I think it's a great point that you're bringing up. Those 2 tough slates that are really going to, I think, determine where the Badgers finish in that upper echelon of the Big Ten, or maybe a little more towards the middle. 2 things I'd say, like, the road games matter, but this is why you go and get a veteran point guard. You go and get veteran guys with experience, because down the stretch of the season where the Badgers have built a team, I mentioned, we're trying to figure out who's going to be the 9th man that plays the 10th man. They built a team that they feel really good about their depth. That's kind of where the depth starts to play. Towards the end of the year, you have a tough 3-game road slate, tough 5 games in a row. That's where that depth and that veteran poise at point guard are really going to help a team like the Badgers. Now, there's no layups in that stretch because you have a veteran point guard at all. But I think that's where the Badgers have done what they can to insulate themselves against a late season tough stretch and those late season road games, because you go and get those veteran players that have been in those moments. I don't know if they could have found a guy better for them than Nick Boyd to help kind of navigate that stretch.
Oh, man, that's so true. And I hadn't even caught that till right now, but not only is it 3 of those 5 are on the road, but 6 of the final 9 games, Ryan, are all on the road, including ending the regular season in West Lafayette. So we'll keep tabs on that. But again, as you said, having the experience and maturity of both Nick Boyd and John Blackwell running the show will help a lot. I know we're going long, my man. Let's get to some.
I'll throw one more quick thing in there. I know.
Yeah, bring it. No, bring it.
The last thing on this is the team is just old in general, right? It's Boyd has played a ton of ball. Blackwell's in his second year starting. You got Rhodey, who's in a senior year, started the last 2 years at Virginia. You have Nolan Winter's been in the program 3 years. Austin Rapp is the younger guy, but he started all last season. And then you have Braden Carrington coming off the bench as a senior. You have so much, and a couple of your younger guys you're depending on are international kids who have been playing in New Zealand and Lithuania. It's just a really veteran, salty team, which is rare for the portal era.
That's a good word. And as you said, once you get into all those road environments, they have that stability, and you're not relying on the nerves of some highly touted freshman to do it. And so that's got to be worth at a couple points on the road, like legitimately, Ryan. That's a great point. Thank you for bringing it. Now, as I was starting to say, we're running long. I apologize. Thanks everybody for being with us here. Let's make some end of season projections. So Ryan, give me both where you project the Badgers to finish in Big Ten play, as well as the regular season record as we head into the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look. So I wrote down the notes that I've lost it, to be honest, but I had them right at about 14-6 in the Big Ten.
Yeah,
I think
I'm looking at, I've got your notes up that you wrote down. Yeah, you had 14-6 in Big Ten play, 8-3 in non-con play.
So I think that gets me to what, 22 wins.
And
I think that's where they're on. I think Purdue's going to get them a couple times. I think they will lose to BYU. The Big Ten's a grind, but I think that gets them right in that kind of jumbled mess of somewhere between 3rd and 5th in the Big Ten, depending on how tiebreakers break out, depending on a few things here and there. I think that's about where they are. I think they're behind Purdue. I'm pretty high in Michigan still. I like Illinois. I think they're somewhere in that grouping, though. And you're going to finish with 14, 15 Big Ten wins. I think 16 maybe at the absolute ceiling, if we're going to talk ceiling a little bit. But I think that's about where they're at this year.
I love that. I love that point. Okay. And what's funny is my total record was right at that same spot, but I had it one game worse in Big Ten play, one game better in non-con play. Cause I was going with that 3-2 record in that 5-game non-con stretch that you were talking about. And then a conference record of 13-7. So I was like slightly lower than you in conference play, around 5th, maybe 6th. But as you said, I think there's such a jumble as per usual at the top and middle of Big Ten, that it could be one of those years like 2 or 3 years ago where it was like a game or two separating 2nd through 9th in the Big Ten standings. And so it's like, you just want to get yourself in that mix and see what happens. All right, Ryan, ultimately, when it's all said and done, Selection Sunday, where are the Badgers going to hear their name? What number are they going to have by their name, and how far are they going?
I think it's a 3 or 4. I think it's a 3 or 4, and I think this team can really push into the Sweet 16-ish because of the veteran poise, because of the shooting. It just feels like every year you hear about teams, man, I don't want to face that team. I think this Badger team is the team, if they're healthy, you're not going to want to face a team with a bunch of veterans that can all shoot and spread you out. So I think you can make a run, and you and I both know this. If you can get into the Sweet 16, brother, anything can happen at that point.
Right. That's absolutely right. That's absolutely. Yeah, it's the kind of thing when we make those the tournament projections, it's like, what is like the baseline expectation? But then what is the, if things break right, this is what could happen, right? Because it's like the randomness, as you're alluding to, the randomness of the tournament makes it so difficult to say, oh, Final Four or bust. Well, that's absurd. What are we talking about, right? Like, and so I love that. Like a second weekend run with possibilities beyond that is, I think, what, like, if you're aligning yourself there, you got to feel good about postseason hopes. So, man, going to be a fun year for Bucky. I cannot wait to see how this all goes. Ryan, thank you so much for joining me. To all you Badgers fans, man, appreciate you all being here. If you're hate watching because you're some other Big Ten school, we're glad you're here to listen and watching. It's good stuff. If you're not already subscribed to Locked On Badgers, go do it right now so you don't miss a second of everything that's going on in the lead up to the season. If you haven't subscribed to Locked On College Basketball, we'd love for you to do that as well. As I mentioned earlier, we've got a Discord for Locked On College Basketball. That link's in the show notes. Absolutely free to join. We'd love to see you in there. We got fans of all sorts of different teams. It's a lot of fun. We got some Purdue folks in there. It's BYU folks actually that dominate it the most, as well as some Crimson Tide. And so we need to get some more fan bases in there holding their own as well. You guys, as always, I want to say apologies to the Lawyer family. Cheers to the Wild Popes. Shouts to the McBruins. And until tomorrow, peace.